The car wash sat on the edge of town where the pavement changed from smooth to patched, and the air always smelled like wet concrete. A bright sign promised showroom shine in 5 minutes, but the building itself looked tired. Sun-faded panels, a dented trash can overflowing with microfiber rags, and a line of cars creeping forward like it was waiting for something more than soap. Malik Jordan eased his car into the queue and killed the engine. The radio fell silent, replaced by the steady hiss of water and the mechanical clatter of spinning brushes. A silver SUV in front of him rolled into the tunnel, swallowed by foam and fluorescent light. For a moment, the vehicle disappeared behind curtains of soap, like it had stepped into another world. Malik stared ahead, one hand resting on the steering wheel, the other tapping once, twice, on his thigh. He hadn't planned to be here. His cousin Trey had called that morning, excitement and panic tangled together in his voice. "Bro, I got the shoot. Like, for real. Downtown, not some friend's music video, a real brand. But they need my camera rig clean, the car clean, everything clean. They're picking me up in 2 hours." Trey's camera rig meant Malik's stabilizer prototype. Malik's hands. Malik's design. The thing he'd been trying to get into the right circles for months. And Trey's ride? That was Malik's car. His pride, his project, his escape. A black sedan with paint that usually looked like a mirror when it was properly washed. Malik had saved for it, worked overtime for it, kept it clean, not just because he liked it, but because he knew what a clean car meant in a world that watched black men too closely. Clean car, clean clothes, clean record, clean tone, clean hands, always proving you belonged. The line moved. Malik started his engine and crept forward under the buzzing shadow of a security camera mounted above the lane. A bright orange cone directed him toward the payment kiosk. A teenager in a damp uniform waved him up. White kid, maybe 16, hair stuck to his forehead from the humidity, eyes half-lidded with boredom. "What wash?" the kid asked. "Premium," Malik said. The kid punched buttons. "That's 32. Malik tapped his card. The kiosk beeped. A little green light flashed, and the gate arm lifted. The kid didn't look at Malik again, just pointed like Malik was a car, not a person. "Drive forward. Put it in neutral when the conveyor grabs you." Malik nodded and rolled ahead until the front wheel caught the track. The conveyor tugged the car forward with a steady, unavoidable pull. He exhaled slowly as the tunnel swallowed him. Inside, the air turned damp and loud. Blue and purple lights flickered across the windshield like a nightclub with a plumbing problem. Foam blasted the hood with a violent enthusiasm. Brushes slapped and spun, heavy and fast, like they were trying to scrub the car into submission. Malik watched water bead and run down the glass. He tried to relax. He told himself it was routine. Just a car wash, just soap and water and 5 minutes of waiting. But even as he sat there, he noticed something that made his stomach tighten. A sound. Sharp, not like water. A scratchy grind, brief but unmistakable, like plastic dragging against something solid. The car jolted slightly as a side brush pressed harder than it should have, bending in like it had teeth. Malik's eyes narrowed. He glanced at the left mirror, saw it vibrate under the pressure. His pulse picked up. He wanted to put the car in drive, wanted to stop the track, wanted to hit some emergency button, if there even was one. But he knew the rules. The signage had been clear. Do not stop. Do not brake. So he sat, jaw tight, and watched the brushes slap and spin as if his anxiety was irrelevant. Then the tunnel ended. Air rushed in. Sunlight hit the hood. The conveyor released the tires, and the car rolled forward onto the drying area where giant fans roared like jet engines. A worker in a damp uniform waved him out. Malik drove to the side parking space designated for finishing. He parked, got out, and then he saw it. Not a smudge, not water spots. A long, pale scrape running along the driver's side door, starting near the front fender and stretching back like a scar. Malik froze. His brain tried to deny it first. Maybe it was soap residue, maybe it would wipe off. He stepped closer, tilted his head. The sunlight caught the mark at the wrong angle and made it obvious. This wasn't dirt. This was missing paint. He ran a finger lightly over the line. He felt the roughness, the tiny jagged edge where the clear coat had been torn away. His throat went tight. He looked around instinctively, as if the scrape might have been put there by a person standing nearby. But the workers were busy wiping windows and moving cars through. Nobody was looking at him. Nobody looked like they planned to be responsible for anything. Malik pulled out his phone. Not to call Trey. Not yet. First, he did what he always did when something felt wrong. He opened his camera and started recording, slow and steady, capturing the scratch, the door, the angle of sunlight, the car wash bay behind him, the sign that listed their premium protection. Then he walked briskly toward the small office window near the exit where the manager sat like a judge behind glass. The office was air-conditioned and smelled like stale coffee. A man stood behind the counter, white, mid-40s, barrel-chested, with a buzz cut and a polo shirt that had the car wash logo embroidered on it. His name tag read, Mark, Manager. Mark looked up at Malik with the expression of someone already annoyed by the existence of customers. Malik forced his voice to stay calm. Hey, my car just came through the tunnel and it looks like your brush scratched the paint on my driver door. Mark's gaze flicked toward the lot, then back to Malik. You sure it wasn't already there? Malik blinked once. No, it wasn't. Mark leaned his elbows on the counter like he was settling into a familiar argument. We get this all the time. People come in with old paint, thin, clear coat, and then blame us. Malik felt heat rise behind his eyes. He kept his tone even. It's not old paint. It wasn't there before the wash. Mark shrugged. Black cars show everything. Could have been there and you didn't notice. Malik stared at him for a second, not because he didn't understand the words, but because he understood the pattern. Not listening, not checking, not even pretending to investigate. Just moving straight to, it's your fault. Malik nodded once. Okay, he said. Can you come look at it with me? Mark sighed dramatically, like Malik was requesting a personal favor, not basic accountability. But he walked out. In the sunlight, Mark approached the car with slow steps. He kept his hands in his pockets. Malik pointed to the scratch. Right there. Mark leaned in, squinted like he was inspecting a questionable receipt, then straightened. Yeah, Mark said. That's old damage. Malik's jaw tightened. It's not. I would have seen a line like that. Mark's eyes slid over Malik's face, then away. Look, man, you can say whatever you want, but that's not from our equipment. Malik's chest tightened. How can you know that without checking? Mark made a small, dismissive sound. Because our brushes don't do that. They're foam. Soft. Malik looked past Mark to the tunnel entrance, where cars continued to roll in. Foam brushes spun. Water sprayed. The machine kept moving like nothing ever happened. He looked back at Mark. So, you're saying a soft foam brush can't damage paint? Mark's tone sharpened. I'm saying your paint's the problem. 2 words landed like a slap. Your paint. Not the machine. Not the process. Not the business. You. Malik felt the urge to raise his voice. The frustration begged for volume. But he knew how that story went. A black man gets loud, then suddenly the whole situation becomes about his attitude, not the scratch. So Malik did the opposite. He became colder and clearer. I took photos before I came here, Malik said calmly. Mark blinked. What? I have a before photo, with a timestamp, Malik added, from this morning. No scratch. Mark's expression flickered. Just a tiny disturbance, like a ripple in a pond, but he recovered fast. Photos don't prove anything. You could have taken that any time. Malik nodded slowly. Then let's do it properly. Let's check your security footage. Mark's face hardened. We don't show footage to customers. Malik's voice stayed flat. Then call the police, or let me file an incident report, or give me your insurance info. Mark laughed once, not amused, more like insulted. For a scratch you came in with? The laugh drew attention. A worker nearby glanced over. A couple of customers paused. Mark looked at Malik like Malik was trying to scam him. Like Malik was a threat to the business, not a person with damaged property. Malik felt the eyes of the lot on him. The air changed. He heard a white woman near the vacuum stations mutter, "People always trying to get something free." Malik kept his face neutral, though his stomach twisted. He turned back to Mark. "I'm not asking for free anything," Malik said. "I'm asking you to take responsibility." Mark crossed his arms. "I'm not paying for that." Malik held his phone up slightly, not in Mark's face, just enough to show he wasn't bluffing. On the screen was a photo of the car taken earlier that morning. Trey standing by the passenger side, holding his camera rig, grinning, sunlight behind him. The image wasn't staged for evidence. It was just life. But it included exactly what Malik needed. A clear view of the driver's side door. No scratch. And in the corner of the image, a timestamp generated by Malik's phone. Mark squinted at it, then shook his head. That could be edited. Malik's eyes narrowed. It's a native camera file. You can check the metadata. Mark snorted. Man, I'm not doing all that. There it was again. Not, let's figure it out. Just, I'm not doing all that. As if Malik's problem was an inconvenience, not something the business caused. Malik's fingers tightened around the phone. He could feel his pulse in his wrists. He looked at Mark and realized something. Mark wasn't just denying the scratch. Mark was denying Malik's credibility, denying his truth the way some people did automatically, without even noticing they were doing it. Malik took a breath. Then he said, calm and precise. Okay, then print an incident form. I'll write everything down, including that you refuse to check footage or take a report. Mark's eyes sharpened. You threatening me? Malik didn't flinch. I'm documenting, he said, because I'm not leaving with your paint as the explanation when your machine just scraped my door. Mark's jaw worked like he was chewing on anger. He looked around. He saw eyes. He saw attention. He saw risk. Businesses hated attention, especially attention they couldn't control. Mark stepped closer, lowering his voice. Look, he said, tone shifting into fake patience. You want a towel? Some polish? That's all I can do. Malik stared at him. A towel won't fix missing paint. Mark's face tightened again. Then take it up with your insurance. Malik's stomach dropped, not because he didn't have insurance, but because he recognized the play. Push responsibility back onto the customer until the customer gets tired, until the customer gives up. Malik looked at the scratch again. It wasn't catastrophic, but it was obvious. And obvious damage on a clean black car wasn't just cosmetic. People judged you for it. People made assumptions. Malik turned back to Mark. What's your full name? Malik asked. Mark's eyes narrowed. Why? For the report, Malik said. Mark's lips pressed into a thin line. Mark Heller. Malik repeated it quietly, like a mental note he'd later use as a headline. He opened his notes app, wrote, Mark Heller, manager, refused report, claimed pre-existing, 2:06 p.m. Mark watched him write and looked increasingly irritated, like Malik's calmness was its own offense. Are you done? Mark asked. Malik looked up. Not yet. Mark scoffed. You people always got a story. The words hit Malik like cold water. Not loud enough for the whole lot, but loud enough that Malik knew exactly what Mark meant. Not customers, not people. You people. Malik's hands stilled. For a split second, he saw two paths again. Explode. Give them the reaction they expected. Stay controlled. Make them confront the facts instead of the stereotype. Malik chose the second. He raised his phone slightly and said, clear enough that Mark and the nearest worker could hear, "I need you to repeat that." Mark's face changed. Surprise, then caution. "I didn't say anything," Mark snapped. Malik nodded. "Okay," he said. "Then we're going to keep this factual." He pointed toward the office window. "Print the incident form." Mark stared at him for a long moment, then turned and walked back toward the office like he was done being watched. Malik didn't follow right away. He stood beside his car and took another set of photos. Close up, wide angle, the car wash tunnel in the background, Mark walking away. Then Malik did something else. He scrolled to the before photo again. He opened the details and saw the exact timestamp, 9:14 a.m. He breathed in slowly, because that timestamp was more than a number. It was proof that Malik's memory wasn't confused. Proof that this wasn't old damage. Proof that someone couldn't just look at him and decide he didn't deserve to be believed. The office printer inside whirred. Malik watched through the glass as Mark tore off a sheet of paper with irritated movements. Mark reappeared at the counter window and slapped the form down under the gap like he was doing Malik a favor. "There," Mark said. "Fill it out. Doesn't mean we're paying." Malik took the form carefully. Read it. Vehicle damage claim report. With tiny boxes and lines and all the language designed to make you feel small. Alleged damage. Customer claims. Management not liable. Malik picked up the pen attached to the counter and began writing slowly, deliberately. He didn't rush. He didn't let Mark's impatience control him. He wrote what happened, where, when, what Mark said. He attached, by stapling, with Mark's stapler, a printed copy of the before photo and a printed close-up of the scratch. Mark watched the photos appear on his counter like they were evidence in a trial. Malik signed his name. Then he looked up at Mark and said quietly but firmly, "I'm going to request the camera footage through the police report if you won't show it, and I'm going to send the time-stamped before photo to your corporate office." Mark's eyes flicked to the photos again. His confidence wavered, not because he suddenly cared, but because he recognized risk. He opened his mouth as if to argue again, then stopped. Malik folded the carbon copy of the report and slid it into his folder. Trey's shoot was still in 2 hours. Malik's door was still scratched. And Mark still stood there, arms crossed, like the scratch was a debate instead of a fact. Malik turned away from the counter and walked back to his car. He didn't feel defeated. He felt focused, because now the story wasn't just my paint. Now it was proof versus prejudice, and Malik had proof.